Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And you know what? I'm going rogue already, 3 seconds in. We haven't done this in a while, and we have a lot of new faces here. So I want to just point out that L.A.M.E stands out, or is an acronym, and it stands for Literary Analysis with Melissa and Ellie. It's not an ironic pun, like book thing saying, because we love books, but we're calling it L.A.M.E. It's an acronym. It does, the irony of it is what was appealing to us when we decided to name that. But it is an acronym, and that's what it stands for. And I just feel like we need to periodically mention that again, because I think we just
should
assume...
sprinkle that in. Spritz that into our episodes.
Yeah.
The dots between the word lame do mean that it stands for something. So yes, correct.
Well, to be fair, if it's kind of small. A lot of the times, I don't know if people actually see the periods in between each letter. But to each his own. Thank you all for being here. Now you know what L.A.M.E stands for if you didn't already. And thank you for everyone who follows us on social media, subscribes on YouTube, leaves reviews, likes and comments on our reels and everything. We really appreciate it. So if you don't already, follow us on all of the things. It's at L.A.M.E Book Club Pod. And we'll love to see you online. See you on the internet.
Yes. Yeah, and actually today you're going to kind of see firsthand what happens when you write your theories into us. Someone wrote in an email. We get DMs all the time. Half the time I'm like, love it. Can I use it on the episode? We'll give you a little shout out. If you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll give you a little shout out. We just love to incorporate you guys into these episodes and talk about your theories too. So highly encourage, if you are someone that loves to theorize as much as we do, let us know what you've got, and we'd love to talk about it. But merch, we have stickers, we have totes, and you can get them at lamebookclubpod.com. And if you're part of our Patreon, you will get 15% off. On that note, join our Patreon. We just finished Legendary, Stephanie Meyer's second book in the Carval series. We are going to do finale next. We have our live book club this Saturday where we get to chat with you guys live on the Zoom and talk about the book we just read. It's going to be donut themed, so that is for the Love tier members. It's a blast. We have so much fun, and that's straight to the point. That's it.
And the donuts make a lot more sense if you're in our Discord, which is also something that we have with our Patreon members, so another reason to join. But without further ado, I have a quick spoiler warning, and I feel like it goes without saying that we will have spoiler warnings for all of Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. However, we will not go past today is chapters 25 through 30, so we will not be spoiling anything after chapter 30 in Onyx Storm. So if you have not read past that, don't worry, you're safe to continue watching this episode. But we will be referencing everything prior to chapter 30 as well. So just quick spoiler warning before we jump in.
Beautifully done. Nice.
Thank you.
I'm ready. But we're not even jumping in yet because, like I said, we have theories. We have things to talk about. We are halfway at this point, and we need to get some established theories on our bingo card so we can check them off by the end. You know what I'm saying?
I so do. Let's talk about them.
Okay. Here's our pregame. Number 1. There are three points of conversation today, and the first one is Xaden's possible Inntinnsic advancement that's happening here.
Yes.
We have seen hints of it so far throughout this book. Not even hints, just straight up, this is happening. He's reading Violet's mind. There's no going around it anymore. What is this? So we were reassured by followers that in an interview Rebecca actually did recently in Colorado with Lexi and Nicole from Fantasy Fangirls, that she did in fact say she had to draw the line somewhere, and what we're picking up is in fact not going to be a third Signet, which leaves me and all the rest of us. I know I wanted it, but it's okay, Rebecca. It leaves us with 3 options. 1, Xaden was a little liar who's lying, and he has a full range of Inntinnsic abilities, and for some reason was just like, I can only do intentions, but I'm going to keep the rest on the DL.
He's a little liar who was lying.
Number 2, his signet, similar to Riddick's, is growing. They're honing it in. It's advancing somehow. Or, number 3, reading minds is a development in his veninism, which then leads me to, can other venin do this? Scary thought.
Actually, I'm off the cuff off the cuff, adding a fourth option on here, which is really just marrying two of them together.
Okay.
What if it's, so yes, he's like honing his signet in the same way Riddick was, but because he's becoming more powerful because he's channeling from the earth. So it's not necessarily something where, not the same as Riddick in the sense that like Riddick has been practicing and is honing it. I think this is unintentional on Xaden's part, but it's his power is becoming stronger because he's tapping into the power of the earth. I guess it's not real. It's like 3.5 option.
Yeah,
it's not
3.5.
It's not really like a full-on fourth new one, but I'm wondering if maybe that is also a possibility, since it, like Riddick, like we've established, has been very intentionally working on this, and he's spent a lot of time honing his skill, whereas not to say Xaden couldn't have been doing this, but we, being Violet's POV, have not seen him or heard him even mention this at all. So it's unlikely that he's been trying to hone his Inntinnsic ability.
Right.
And also, this is on the table of him being a little liar who's lying. But if that ends up being the outcome, like that he just lied about it only being intentions, I think I might throw my book and my Kindle against the wall. I might lose it.
I might throw up, and I would too.
I would throw up while throwing both of those devices. Like,
truly, so far, we're chapter 30. We're halfway through. This book has been a love letter from Xaden to Violet. Everything he has done has been sacrificial, trying to control himself for her, because and like every answer, every response, who are your loyalties to, everything, Violet, only Violet. So the fact that he would have kept this from her doesn't speak to the character of Xaden that we know him as so far. So I really think it leaves us with option 3, that this is a development as a venin, and that scares me.
Yeah, it would be like his character was regressing instead of progressing, because even, I mean, we're in book 3 at this point, and every lie he's ever told to Violet has only been for her safety, and or something that he was not allowed to tell because it wasn't just his secret.
Right.
And so we already see, like, I just don't understand what would have been the point. I guess, okay, cool, like we could err on like her safety of being the reason he didn't tell her, but like he already told her part of it then. Like he told her the aspect that he could read intentions. So at that point, her safety would have been blown, knowing that he, like, what she knows about him. So why be a little liar?
Why not say the whole
lying?
thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if that was the case, if he was lying. So personally, I don't subscribe to that, but I understand why it needs to be said.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what you think. Which of these 3 options makes the most sense to you? Because maybe we missed something. Maybe there's a sentence in this book that we skimmed that you're like, no, this explains exactly what it is, and we need to know. Okay, topic number 2 for discussion. It was brought to my attention that Theophanie is actually a Greek name that means appearance of a deity or revelation of God. Coincidence?
Up.
I think not. So this furthers my thought that she is in fact possibly one of the OG lightning wielder mentioned in the Great Wars, and that again something got lost in translation, and these deities that the continent recognizes are perhaps once great wielders that became immortal via becoming venin.
Ooh. Okay, now I subscribe to that. I before I was like, no, Ellie, at least in my mind, I'm like, Ellie, they're deities. But the fact that Tairn has commented for, like, we don't recognize your gods. Yeah. Plus, like, now learning more about the
Isles
origin of the name. Well, not even just that.
Oh,
well, yeah, I guess that too, but also just the origin of the name. I'm like, okay, I subscribe, and especially considering that the fact that miscommunication, like things being lost in translation, information being purposefully
you've seen how much Navarre specifically, Bezgayev is able to twist information. But what really sent me and why I really jumped on this one is because of the Isles, when they're going here and they're saying like, oh, we don't recognize, like, how do you over at the continent say it, Malik? Like, okay, so why don't they recognize Malik on Deverelli? Is it because they have no magic? They had no venin ever encounter them. They have no myths and whatever, all that. So halfway point, that one's on my bingo card. And it's going to be a hard move to make me remove that one. Next, the last topic, Mira. And this one blew my mind. This one blows my mind. So we had someone write in, a lovely person, via email and tell us her theories on Mira. Sarah, this one goes out to you. So Sarah writes that she thinks Mira could be hiding something and that perhaps Mira is actually going to be the big bad of the Sorrengails. Not Brennan, who may end up turning venin, but Mira.
Ooh.
Meaning Brennan may end up getting bonded with a griffin somehow. That whole story may flip-flop, and it would not be unlike Sarah to set us all up to be self-proclaimed geniuses and then spin us around 180 and slap us. So here we go. There are 3 instances that Sarah had backing up this whole truth, and behold, I also highlighted these, but then doubted myself and left some of them off of the podcast because I thought I was making something out of nothing. I even wrote a whole paragraph for our last episode and deleted it line by line because I was 100% sure I was just putting on the tin hat and it was not right. So the evidence here is damning. Melissa, I'm so excited to tell you because this sent me. Here's the backup.
Let me put my tin hat on. My favorite of all hats.
So, Mira, do you remember when they went to the museum and they found the citrine?
Yes.
Like really fast? How did Mira find it so fast? How did she know exactly where to go? And also, the fact that she was there first and found the note from Theophanie. We can chalk that up to like, oh, she just got there first. Coincidence. It's all worked out and she found that note. But isn't that a little suspicious?
Okay, the note. So here, to me, no, but I could be misremembering. I was under the impression, because Kat gave them a map to follow when they were there to find the citrine. And maybe this is exactly what Rebecca wanted us to assume.
Just a map to the building, not a map to where exactly it was in the building.
Okay, see, that's where I'm like, maybe that's where Rebecca just wanted us to assume. I chalked that up to Kat told them where they could, like literally where they could find it. So that's why I wasn't super surprised when she found it. And then obviously Theophanie knew that they'd be looking for that at some point.
Yeah,
because
she is a Theophanie problem, not a Mira problem.
Yeah, Mira problem. The letter was just there. So to me, that didn't stand out. And quite honestly, right now, it still doesn't stand out too much to me. But I'm excited to hear your other points.
Okay. Point 2. Why was Mira late to the meeting? This is the one I did highlight, made a whole thing about it, then deleted it. Claiming that there was just a strong wind. Why would Rebecca write that in? Vi noted that for once in her life, Mira is late. Once in her life?
Yes.
Suspicious. Something suspicious.
Absolutely.
Then, where we assumed the rune that she gave to Violet to protect her from the sun was just like a sisterly, here's something, and that might affect Violet wielding when she gets back, or, we were theorizing a bunch of different things. Sarah suggests that she was secretive about it. Why did she give that to her? Mira doesn't want the others to know that Violet has it. She told her specifically, keep it on the down low. Does it have something to do with venin? Does it have something to do with keeping Violet's powers at bay? And why haven't we brought that back up? It's just sitting in her pack as we speak.
That's fair. I agree. Man, I really thought I was going to be like, oh my gosh, like how did I miss all these things? But it really is going back and forth for me.
Easter eggs. Then we're going to talk about this today, but chapter 28 in this section of chapters, she takes leave. And then very I'm not going to talk about it.
That was the weirdest thing to me. And I was wondering if you were going to bring that up or not. And the excuse that she gave of visiting their grandma, like, to me, that is sketchier than anything. This grandma that has not once ever been brought up before, that is supposedly specifically their dad's mom. Like, I'm not saying she didn't do that, but I think she was gone for a week and a half. Like, and if this lady that their family hasn't ever spoken to since Violet, I don't think has ever met her. Like, you're telling me, how long did you spend with her? Like, and I know it's going to take a hot second to get there, but like, you have a dragon. It's not like you're just walking. I don't know. The her being gone for a while is more, and like, sure, I get we got a excuse of where she was, but I think it was convenient, and I think that was maybe only half of it.
And Mira is the one person that Violet's father said to trust, which makes me question, what if this is the one person Violet can't trust? She shouldn't. And that Rebecca added that in there for us to all lower our guards completely with only one person. And that's the one person we should be watching out for the most. These are all such like subtle things in the book.
Yeah.
But something to open your eyes about, I think.
Well, and I guess even just to add more validity to what you just said, okay, sure, her dad told us to trust Mira, or told Violet even to trust Mira, but her dad also was the one who was like, I knew you'd fall in love with Dane Atos. So clearly her dad wasn't like the most aware.
Good point.
I mean, yeah, he never saw Violet and Xaden together, but maybe he also never saw the bad side of Mira. So I don't know. I think that right there just points to like his judgment is not necessarily like the most accurate when it comes to Violet herself.
And there is an undeniable kind of rift happening between Violet and Mira as the story goes on because of this like preferential treatment that Violet is getting from her dad's notes. And so I don't know, something's happening. It could be nothing.
It could be nothing. Something. I don't know if I'm going to subscribe to the idea of her being the big bad, but there is more coming with this. She had way too big of a reaction to the dad's feeling like he's choosing Violet and not her, and like she can't help with any of this, and it's causing way too much tension between Violet and Mira for it to not be something bigger than what we think it is right now. Like for it to not circle back or to be her origin story. Like there is way more to this. And I'm excited to just accept what Rebecca gives to me.
Just let me have it. Okay, now we're ready to dive in. Are you ready?
I've been ready, Ellie. Let's go.
Been ready. Chapter 25. This one's short and sweet. Kind of gets right to it. Xaden and Violet have segs, and King Cortland decided to keep Halden, which made me LOL. Also,
I know.
Violet brings up how she would consider moving here for Xaden to keep his peace, and she says he says he can't stand that Sigale is in pain here, so he wouldn't want to stay, and that all the dragons are in pain. And I just, my heart.
Yeah, and that reason right there is why I was giving pause in our last episode as far as them staying or like even coming back, because I'm like, they could never. Yeah. Because that would mean a lifetime of pain for their dragon, and I don't think either of them would actually do that, even if it meant a lifetime of freedom for Xaden.
We're like, goodbye, because maybe there's no bond, and they just left.
Guess. But if there's no bond, yeah. Anyways.
Well, we'll get to this. So Xaden and Violet are now on their way to King Cortland's palace to retrieve Halden. And that is where chapter 25 ends. So short and sweet, to the point. Chapter 26. So the header completely debunks my plan B. Damn it, Rebecca. And this is exactly what we were just talking about. So in the first 24 hours of removal from source magic, the subject, an ASIM, presented as even-tempered. But withdrawal quickly revealed the subject's true nature, requiring the subject's immediate transfer to stage 2 of the study, which then was death by fire and poison and the likes. So, and this can't be retirement plan for Xaden. They have to find a cure. There is no plan B. And
also,
R.I.P.
Yeah. This made me remind me who's in the header. Where did it say like who wrote that down or like said it?
I love that you say this. I think I bring this back into it. The Study in the Anatomy of the Enemy by Captain Dominic Purcell.
Okay. The fact that we had or at least, unless I haven't been paying attention, I'm like 99% sure that's the first time that name came up. And I'm just like, what the heck? And I'm like, I need to know more about this study. Like,
tell me why that's what I thought too.
Back. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm like, supposedly, none of us knew anything about venin and no leadership even. And I mean, even at this point, the leadership that we've gotten close to, like Professor Devera, and is Markham still keeping secrets? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But like, there are people in leadership, especially like everyone in Erasia. Like, I would have assumed that they would have armed everyone with as much information possible. So to me, that makes me think that they don't know any of this. So I'm like, okay, who's doing these studies then that actually knows so much about these venin? Like,
come on now. Exactly what I was thinking. I even wrote next line. I think it's so intentional because obviously Violet must have skipped this chapter of the study in the anatomy of the enemy if she is suggesting Xaden stay somewhere where there is no magic. Or she just never read it. Meaning we are about to see him derail, I think, because he's in this place with no magic. But they're gonna go back soon. But
he's
long
not an
could you be
ASIM
there?
He's not an ASIM yet, though. He's still an initiate.
True.
He has to channel more before he becomes an ASIM, which is why I think.
So maybe he could
potentially doesn't fully debunk your theory, but it also in my mind there is no chance we get through the end of this book without him channeling enough to become an ASIM.
Oh, I know, devastating. But also, just because they tested it on an ASIM doesn't mean that an initiate or whatever his status is an initiate. Baby venin wouldn't also have a similar, if not
potentially
delayed effect in the same exact thing. So, okay. But I think that that's, again, so intentional to just tell us this wouldn't work. I know what she's like. Rebecca's like, I know what you're all thinking. It wouldn't work. And here's why. Whatever. It's fine. So Violet asks Tairn if he and Indarna are in pain, to which he replies, it's not comfortable, but like I don't need to gripe about it the same way you don't report all of your pain to me. And that was, I cannot relate. The amount of things I've complained about just today, hip pain, joint pain, back pain, throat sore, I don't know, my eye hurts, just everything. Always complaining about everything, I feel.
I know. Well, and also that hit home for me too, because we are in Violet's mind, so we know how much she struggles with pain, even in her mind she's like, I will get over this, like it's just something I live with, I've learned how to cope. Like, I mean, like she's not even complaining necessarily, but we know how often she's in pain, and this confirms to us that Tairn is also aware of how often she is in pain, and he's just essentially saying like, if you're not going to complain, I'm not going to complain, which is so sweet.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet. But damn it, my dragon would be
Tairn.
like, shut up.
I know. Yeah, my dragon would be like, oh, can't relate.
Get over it. Violet and Xaden make it to the palace and prep for tense conversations. On their walk up, they notice glowing orbs that Violet says she read about in Sir Zimli's Guide to Deverelli Fauna. And this reads like a freaking middle school novel to me. You know what I'm saying? Like the Next to Classified School Survival Guide.
Survival Guide, yeah.
Or like how to defeat homework, science, and math while still being a knight at the round table. Like that kind of book.
Please tell me you just made that last one up.
Yeah, I did. Of
course. I was like, why do I have no idea what that's from.
But like all middle school books are like
I know what
that.
you mean.
Like just
the
ridiculous.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
So Sir Zimli's Guide to Deverelli Fauna. I don't know. It's obviously not, but it is. You know what I'm saying?
But it gave the vibes. Yes. If you're looking for them, they're there.
They're there. The orbs are actually poisonous moths, and I'll be darned if that does not come back at some point in the future. I'm telling you what. Two guards. Fair. Don't you think? It was just a specific shout out to little glowing orbs that she was like, oh, it's so funny. My dad writes about these things. And I just felt like, I'm going to see these moths again. And why are they poisonous?
Yeah, no, that's so true. They probably will come back in like a really subtle way. It's like, remember these moths? And then they're going to be like, oh shoot, they're poison, like something like that.
Something like that.
But I didn't think twice about it when I read this at first. I was honestly so more like, oh my gosh, this imagery is, believe it or not, I think I visualized something exactly as the author wanted me to for once. And I was like,
that's
this is
on
stunning.
Growth. And that's on maturity.
Growth. Oh man.
Well, two guards walk up and insist Violet and Xaden cannot pass. Xaden is, in short words, over it. However, he says something interesting. As he's explaining the situation to the guards, he says they can't keep Halden because that would make things difficult for someone he has complicated loyalty towards. And, like, Violet puts together that he means Arik, but the complicated loyalty, that was weird for me. Did you pick up on that at all?
It didn't strike me as, so there's one of two things for me. it didn't strike me as weird because we know that he has an interesting past with Auric because he killed the brother. And so Auric has never been like a huge fan of Xaden. And I think the feeling is kind of mutual. But at the same time, they both are fighting for the same cause. So that the complicated loyalty makes sense for me.
That makes sense.
Unless, because then Violet goes, oh, Auric, ? And we're only in her head. So unless Xaden was talking about someone else and we're just accepting that we think it's Auric, that would be an interesting twist. But I don't know.
Mind blown.
I am reading way too into every little thing all the time.
And that's our job. And that's what's I am so frustrated because I'm reading this book 5,000 times slower than any other book because I'm highlighting every possible crumb. And now I'm like, I'm just going way too deep in the woods. It couldn't possibly be every single sentence is an Easter egg, but isn't it? Isn't it
actually?
After some intimidation, Xaden finally explains that he is the Duke and Violet is his consort, so she's also invited to this party, and the crowd goes wild. Violet is annoyed by this because she likes reasonable communication prior to statements of forever, and Xaden is a classic under-communicator, if not a lover of absolute silence and not communicating at all. Although, he jokes with Violet about the definition of consort, and she says, well, this is not really the time. And then he deadpans, looks her in the eyeballs, and says, well, when would be? Marriage.
I know. Marriage.
I knew it was coming.
Again, another not so subtle nod, and I stop kicking my feet and giggling, which is so funny because normally that doesn't do it for me in books. But for some
Xaden,
reason in this one,
it does. Because Xaden is so, like, closed off most of the time. Yeah, he's Xaden. And so for him to be suggesting this.
Yes, but I think for me, it's a lot of that, but also the fact that this isn't just marriage. He's a duke. So now we're bringing in royalty.
Royal marriage.
And if I was not obsessed with the crown, then I don't know what. Like, something about the idea of monarchy and royalty, it's what I like. I love that. I love it so much. And so this is, Rebecca, you genius. For me personally, she's really hitting the nail on quite a few heads with pulling in lots of different elements of random parts of my life that I love to make one epic book for me.
This was written for you. I love that.
It's almost like I was her case study and was like, what is Melissa's mind like?
Yeah. I think that's kind of the case for 99% of girls, though. And man, it's just such a good read. They approach the dinner table, so they clearly explain it as a U-shaped table, but unlike you, I have not grown. I am not mature.
No, I just grew for a second. We're back. Don't worry.
We progressed. I'm picturing, have you watched Parks and Rec? Do you know, and if you haven't, maybe you even just know like the meme where Ron Swanson gets that upgraded desk and he's sitting in the middle. It's like a swivel desk.
Yes.
No. It's the swivel one where
Office.
he's like, he's like turning away from people that are walking up trying to talk to him. I pictured just the Cortland sitting in the middle of this table, like swiveling to talk to everyone. I don't know why my head went there, but it did.
Yeah, nor do I. I think I actually did picture this maybe a little bit more accurately than you did. However,
that's fair.
I continually forgot and like was constantly reminded throughout this whole scene that they were outside. In my mind, they were inside for all of this.
Oh, in my mind, they were inside.
No, they're outside. This is like they make a comment about how like not most, but like a big part of the palace is outdoors because of the weather, like how great the weather is.
Comment. You're right.
Yeah.
I pictured pillars with like white curtains coming down that opened up to like the outside. Like they're like floor to ceiling just outside coming in, but not based outside.
Well, see, and again, cannot confirm. Some listeners are a lot more aware than we are. I cannot confirm or deny because I did take all of the descriptions very loosely when picturing this in my mind movie while reading. Yeah. So maybe it's like half in, half out, possibly. I'm pretty sure it's just fully outside though.
Okay. Yeah. So Takaris is there as well as Halden and King Cortland. He's in the middle and he's younger? He's our age?
I know. I got so excited. I'm like, okay, obviously we know Xaden is endgame, but there was the possibility.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I was like, there was the possibility of Halden being like a love triangle, even though that got quickly squashed. But then I immediately remembered what Takara said and how don't make a deal that you can't keep. And I was like, oh no, he's young.
Stop it, you.
Is he going to want a bride? Is Violet going to have to stay with him or at least be betrothed?
Ooh,
that's where
you
my
jumped
mind went.
way into a better headspace than me. I was just like, oh, I don't know. I didn't think anything. I didn't think anything.
I didn't think.
I love that
read.
though. I just read. Okay, so here's my question. Why is no leadership ever just like chill? Just like a nice chill, no cool, no kosher. Everybody is a tyrant. Everybody is
Once
psycho.
again.
And the people who aren't in leadership that are like, oh, I'm next in line are the normies. They're like, you're perfectly suitable to rule this entire kingdom. Why aren't you the Halden? Freaking Markham, Atos, just psychos across the boards. Varish, King, what's the
Varish didn't have any kids,
name?
I don't think. King.
What are we talking about? I'm just talking about leadership.
Oh,
Tari. Yeah.
King Tari,
just everybody is psycho. What is happening in this entire universe that they're like, you should be appointed leader?
Well, before you started talking about how when you first started talking about how why is leadership so psycho, I had a thought. But then when you started going, but then the second in line, they're all the normies and they're all like,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that takes away with what I was about to say. But the idea of everyone in leadership and government positions or whatever being psycho and insane truly is a nod to reality. I mean, I cannot think of a better group of people to consider psycho and insane on all fronts. I don't care what government, I don't care what political stance, all of them crazy, all of them. And you have to be a little crazy, I think, to gain that much traction.
To be in the public eye like that, yeah.
You have to go a little crazy.
But anyways,
but that's not an excuse.
Shocked.
They're all crazy.
I was just shocked that it's like everybody, every single one, there's no good king. There's no just good. Everybody's psycho. Anyways, I digress. Violet gives Xaden the lowdown as they walk up. She says, these people value status, wealth, knowledge, and secrets. And also don't ever break your word, ever, ever, ever. So,
which
we
again,
are also.
But to me, that was furthering my crazy idea that the deal that they weren't going to be able to break was Violet. Because of the nod to him being young. But
crazy.
I know.
So we quickly find out that Cortland is furious because Halden offered something that was not his to give away. And here I am again, like, dragons?
Freaking Halden.
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's
I
not.
know.
Cortland then lunges and plants a dagger in Halden's hand. And I'm going to shoot straight with you. I read head at first and I gasped. I was like, just like that, huh?
He's
so
done.
It's just like that. But it's still gasp worthy, but it's not as crazy. It's just the hand. It's okay. So it turns out Halden tried to give away a dagger that should have belonged to Orisha, and it should have been an heirloom for Xaden. Halden was playing Mean Boy games.
The absolute airs that he puts on is astounding to me. And how honestly, he was giving more of an evil version of this, but the annoying kid from Polar Express is how I read everything he said. It's like, well, we stole it. It's rightfully mine. I took it during the war. I'm shook up. That's him. Not how it works.
That's him. That's exactly who he is. Wow.
That's how I read it. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Not at any point was I like, yeah, I like this Halden character. But I think after the basket situation, I was a little bit more, I was softened to him. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty freaking embarrassing. What a loser. And so I kind of was just like, Halden, like the boy. And then after this scene, I was like, I wanted to just flick him in the forehead because that's just what he deserved after it. He was so irritating.
Oh my gosh. No better analogy ever given this show than if you're listening, that was a treat for all of our ears. So next thing we know, Courtland is like, babies, come here. And listeners, you're not even going to believe this. Maybe you will if you read it. But 3 panthers come out. I just feel like what I'm saying next is a fever dream. 3 panthers come out and they get to eat dinner at the table. And on their silver trays, again, for these panthers, they get silver trays. It gets nuttier and nuttier. Is meat chunks made out of Halden's lady guard. And
one of them was her head.
Just her head was served on the platter. Head, her red hair tussling out of the platter. The panthers are there to eat her body. What am I reading? What just happened?
Well, and honestly, at this point, for me, it turned into Aladdin because we're outside. There's panthers, but they're all white panthers. And so I know that Raja is a tiger and not a white tiger. She's just a regular tiger. But it was just the word is eluding me. It gave the same vibes to me at this point. How it just the very the big cat and the warm climate outdoor amphitheater-esque, not amphitheater, but dinner table. It just felt like Arabian something they would have done. Very Arabian Night-esque. It felt like something they would have done if this was written back when Aladdin was produced. I see what you're saying. So
yeah. To me, I couldn't even get there because my eyes jumped out of my skull to land on the pages that I was reading. First of all, what's her name? Aura, lighting a town on fire by mistake, as well as Grady, and then immediately dying, post being super pompous and proud. That was the craziest thing I've read. Skip ahead 10 chapters. Panthers are eating a guard on the dinner table. This book is wild.
Rebecca held nothing back. That is for sure.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I know, me too. It's so Game of Thrones-esque. It's like, and what else? And what else? When you think it can't get crazier, it does. So
I know. The only thing we would need for it to be more Game of Thrones is we would need more main character deaths. That is the only thing that's missing.
I know.
Well, Game of Thrones destroyed me. So
same. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit because all of that was just melting my cubes. But backing up, Courtland had asked Xaden where his loyalties lied since his father was a rebel, and it seemed like Xaden's kind of all over the place. And Xaden so absolutely says Violet. Violet first, then Tyrandor, then Navarre when it's worthy, usually when Violet is in residence. Oh, it sent me.
The poet that Xaden is. Honestly, if he ever loses his job as Duke, he should go into the poetry business. I guess he'd also have to lose his job as a writer. But I'm just saying, if he needs a backup, poetry would be a good choice for him.
Poetry, Xaden. So back to the current. Halden is peeved that Courtland served his guard up as beef chunks, and Courtland says it's because he caught her thieving. Now, here's where something interesting finally happens, and obviously I'm kidding.
Finally?
Halden says...
You got me.
I hope all the listeners are also like, finally. Halden says, those items belong to us. Wait, say it. Again. How do you say it? Say it with the gut.
Say it with my gut. I don't know. I feel like I wasted it, and it wasn't even a good impression the first time. It's like, what the heck? It's my turn. That's supposed to be my stuff.
To which Courtland replies,
belongs to me.
They're mine, bartered for services rendered over the past century. And then that gives us all pause, because what do you mean century?
Exactly.
Violet then remembers a conversation she had with Arik in regards to what Halden was doing about the venin. Arik had only said, I'm here, aren't I? Meaning Halden wasn't doing anything. However, according to Violet, Halden has been playing a starring role. Now, what exactly does this role entail? What does this all mean?
Well,
Xaden...
to me...
Yeah, good.
We're talking about the conversation that Arik had with Violet and how she was like, well, so she knew that his brother and dad knew. And his response was, well, I'm here, aren't I? Implying that in Arik's mind, whatever Halden, whether it was something or nothing, whatever he was doing wasn't helpful. And we just chalked that up to him doing nothing because that's what Violet assumed. Well, come to find out, that's not the case. He was doing something, but Arik still said, I'm here, aren't I? Which means he knew what Halden was doing and also felt that it wasn't helping the cause. So now we have to get sat back down in our seats and rethink all of this because Arik never said he wasn't doing anything. He just said he wasn't doing anything productive. So if what Violet is now realizing and assuming is that Halden is playing a way bigger role in this, it can't be anything good.
Right. Which is why we have to read this slowly, so slowly, highlight every mundane sentence, because even that conversation, I was like, hey, whatever, comes back around. It's something. So Xaden tries to de-escalate by taking over negotiations and cutting Halden out entirely, being like, forget Navarre, forget him. Tyrandor will show up. It'll just be Orishan riders. Like, this is what's up. And Halden then runs his big fat mouth, and Cortland is like, I'm done. Takaris can live, kill the rest. Ugh. I can't even really blame Cortland at this point. Halden sucks so bad, I'd be like, yeah, enough with all of them.
He really does. I am a little disappointed. I mean, I understand for the sake of like action and plot, and especially what ends up coming next, why Cortland said kill them all. But like he was having a fairly productive conversation with Violet and mostly Xaden, but like them and Halden is the gnat in the corner that won't leave them alone. I'm surprised he wasn't just like meat chunks, like just to him, and was like stuck them like Panthers, get them, attack, eat
my babies. That's wild.
Would you like a second course, my babies?
Chapter 27. Everything everywhere all at once pops off, and it's a bunch of Deverelli soldiers v. Violet, Xaden, and Halden. Halden gets knocked out so fast, and after a gnarly fight, Violet takes an elbow to the freaking face. There's a lull in the fighting as the riders basically took out every guard, but more are coming. And then Xaden sees Violet's face, and according to the book, quote, he's Xaden, but he's not. He pulls Violet to his chest, kisses her forehead, stretches out his hand and twists it, and all 12 oncoming guards crunch and die. How?
Oh, man. Well,
there's no magic.
I know, but oh my goodness. I have to read the entire quote of what you said, he's Xaden, but he's not, because the lines before that are beautifully written. It says, but this, whatever's swirling in those onyx eyes is a tempest I've never beheld. It's one step past fury, as though Dunne herself has stepped into his eyes and now peers back at me. He's Xaden, but he's not. And this, again, I don't know if I'm reading too far into this or not, but could this possibly be another nod at the theory we have about Theophanie? Like how the deities are potentially venin, just immortalized, because if it's Dunne herself like peering back in his eyes, we know, I mean, he's just an initiate, but like he was channeling, and we learned that in like two sentences later. Like, is that again just another, like, I don't know, could it be
literally someone else?
Fire of the like literally. Well, and yes and no, like, but essentially, like, it could aid the theory. I kind of.
Interesting take. So I'm sitting there flabbergasted. How did this just happen? There's no magic. But then Xaden drops Violet's conduit. Boy, oh boy.
Oh boy.
I think this is us seeing him snap. So
it is.
Yeah.
One step closer to ASIM, that's for dang sure. I told you he's not making out of this book without becoming one. Which I'm only laughing because if I'm not laughing, I'm gonna cry.
What's that? You used a sound bit a long time ago that was like, give it to Melissa, please. Oh, but it was like someone like whining. That's how I feel like, no, don't become ASIM, please.
Jessica, please, give it to me, Jessica.
No, please. That's how I feel. So Xaden then looks so This actually pulled so much emotion out of me.
I know.
Beautiful job, Rebecca, because I really died a little bit. He looks so sad puppy, and my heart broke. Steps up to Violet and just pleads by saying, Violet. And I crushed. Violet steps up immediately with a plan ready to go. And that's my girl. She basically sidesteps Cortland's questions about how did Xaden just do that, and instead threatens him by having Andarna hold one of his baby girl panthers in her mouth like a golden retriever with an egg. Violet brokers the deal between them, and Cortland is now more than ever ready to listen. The two agree on the search party's comings and goings, and once everything is settled, Violet sends Xaden back to Orisha with his heirlooms. She says she'll see him at Bascaeth in a week, and something tells me that that's not going to happen, but perhaps that's just the dread in my heart.
Well, one of my favorite parts of this whole deal, though, was that, yes, he's allowing the group minus Halden, so that means Halden will not be allowed on any further trips.
He's so dumb. I just cannot handle him.
I was a little sad about there being no more possibility of the baskets, though.
I too, that did crush me just a tad bit. But it's just no more Deverelli. He could still be basketed into any other isle that they visit.
True, but they're using Deverelli as a stopping point before because of how far everything is. And if he's not allowed at Deverelli, then he can't keep going.
Oh, well. So sad to see you go.
Whine, complain.
She also throws in a good faith gift, which is Andarna's egg. Cortland asks,
shell.
Yeah, shell. Eggshell.
Okay, you're so right.
I see what you're saying. It sounds like Andarna's baby. It's not. Andarna's
and I'm
shell
like, she didn't have an egg.
From whence she hatched. Yes.
The shell of the only known 7th breed dragon. Yes.
Cortland asks Violet if they're going to begin their search at Umbriel since it's the closest isle, then suggests yet another trade if she's feeling amenable, which I thought...
There it is.
Perhaps she's not, but I wouldn't personally ask for more in that instance, but he's ballsy, so...
I don't know. Your baby girl is still in Andarna's mouth. I don't know how many favors you could be asking at this point.
But good on him. That's how business people work. Not me.
He's
chapter
king
28.
for a reason, am I right?
You're right. Okay, so I feel like not a lot, and yet everything happened in this chapter. It's crazy. So Violet notes that she is so tired. Every muscle aches. Her stomach can't decide if it's hungry or wants to throw up. And personally, this kind of talk is why I'm getting messages on the daily about the theory of Violet being pregnant.
Yes.
But I actually think I'm not on board with this theory because...
I'm not... Yeah.
Are you?
I'm not sold yet. No, mostly because I've been pregnant. And I can tell you right now, being pregnant never once was like, am I going to throw up? Or is this nausea or is this hunger? Because it was always nausea, but it's, am I nauseous because I need to eat, or am I nauseous because I have the tummy bug? It was never, and it almost always was because I needed to eat. So the way it was described felt different to me. Plus, given the fact that there's a lot going on. She has very good reason to have physical stress symptoms.
Sure.
It's not like, oh, what are I just don't know if I'm hungry or sick today on like a Wednesday afternoon. Like there was a lot happening here. So
that's exactly what I said. I said there's so much that she's doing that absolutely explains why she's tired and feeling sick. So it's not like, oh, she's just tired and sick out of nowhere and that was a quick drop. She's literally, the next like paragraph is explaining her unending schedule, plus riding 12 hours back and forth to these isles. It's crazy.
But to play devil's advocate like we always do,
wait.
Is that not exactly what Rebecca wants us to think?
You're right.
Oh, there's logical reasons.
You're so right. But I was going to say, my friend actually said that instead of saying to play devil's advocate, people are starting to use the term to allow Satan some room in this conversation.
To hold space for Satan, would one not argue?
That's so rough. So upon making it back to Bascaeth, Violet confirms Imogen kept her prisoner alive. And this was a weird sentence to me because is her prisoner Jack? Is she counting him as her prisoner? Did you pick that up? What was that?
Yeah, well, again, also countering I guess not maybe fully countering, but I'm still fully on board with the idea of Imogen being a big bad.
Me too.
Making it feel like it's like not her thing. Like, oh, I don't know. This isn't me. This is all you. So like when it comes to find out later that she was involved, I don't know. I just am really overanalyzing every single thing about Imogen right now. So absolutely, I thought it was weird. But I couldn't tell why I thought it was weird.
But I don't know why. That's where we're at with almost everything. Something's weird, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
So in Battle Brief, Sawyer recounts Cortland's proposal. He wanted to trade Violet and Xaden's services for weaponry. However, Kat being Kat states the somewhat brutal honest fact to Violet, and she says, wanting you as a weapon is weird. They don't have magic. AKA, Violet with lightning is something, and Violet with no lightning is just kind of a mid-fighter. So I can't disagree with that, but I want to.
She was trained by Professor Xaden Ryerson.
I know.
I mean, I'm not saying she's as good of a fighter as Xaden or anything, but she's definitely more. I would not say she's mid. She's always underestimated, which is her biggest weapon, like in her favor. Honestly,
if it's a block in my mind. If you're listening, let me know if you maybe thought differently. But I just felt like they didn't really hit hard. They highlighted it for sure, but they didn't hit hard that she is now some super advanced fighter and everyone always underestimates her, and yet she comes out on top. Like, she still gets hurt a lot. And so in my head, yeah, good fighters get hurt for sure, but I wasn't thinking like she is this incredible force to be reckoned with without her lightning. Everyone always says she's so strong because of her lightning. She's one of the most powerful because of that signet. Well, so
exactly. And I think that's why it's gonna come up. Call me crazy, but I think it's going to come up in some way because now we know that there's no magic on the Isles. And this, I actually disagree. There have been nods. There was earlier in this book, there was a line where they couldn't wield, or she just didn't or something. And she made a comment to Tairn and she said, I've always been better with my blades because she isn't strong enough or consistent enough with her lightning yet. And like, yes. And the fact that this entire time, everyone has always only considered her a threat because of her signet, that to me, while in the background she's been working on fighting throughout the whole series as well, it's gonna bode well for her at some point. I don't know what, if it has anything to do with anything, but she's, yes, like you said, she gets hurt easily, but that's because of just like the way that she is. I mean, we know that she's based off of someone who has EDS in real life. Like, that's where her character's based off of. We haven't gotten a full explanation, I don't think, just yet in the book. I don't know if we'll ever get more than what we have, but I don't know. Like, yes, she gets hurt, but she still wins. Like,
yeah, no, and that wasn't really my hard-hitting point, is that she got hurt. Like, again, fighters get hurt, that's fine, but it's just that I really felt like, yeah, she would say like, oh, I'm good with my blades, but like, I don't know, there wasn't a revelation of she's this insane fighter now. And like, I feel like when you watch movies about an underdog and then they come up training, like someone who spends time on the rink before the whole team gets there, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like someone who's practicing on the field before anyone else is out there, and then you see this Mulan, she's climbing up that thing before anybody else wakes up because she's practicing. I don't feel like we got a lot of that with Violet to be like, oh, that makes sense, she's this incredible fighter. It's just the average training that everyone else is doing, plus a little more running and maybe a little extra training sessions with Xaden. But throughout the book, she has been an incredible fighter. So, yeah, maybe Kat's not onto something. I don't know. That was just my 2 cents on the whole thing.
Well, to hold some space for Satan here with this, I would argue that she hasn't had her pole climbing moment just yet. All we've been getting is the secret trainings and consistent building of muscle for whatever her top of the moment fight, whatever moment.
Okay. And maybe this is queuing it up. Kat, especially undermining her, is queuing it up. All right.
Yeah.
So Devera then asks, because once again, they're still in class, if they'd like to share with the rest of the class their whisperings, and chooses Violet to explain what's going on the map in front of the room, which Violet then pulls a full-on Edward Cullen during the Romeo and Juliet class movie and recites it perfectly. But for real, she recognizes that the venin are showing us like a change in strategy, and it looks like they're prepping for the Orician wards to fall. But then she questions, but why? Like, how would they fall? And methinks, Xaden. I think they're waiting on him.
How are they going to know? How are they going to know? But how are they going to know?
So now the gang is sitting at the amphitheater reading Asher's books during practice fights. Something to note, Mira, like we said in the beginning of this, has taken personal leave for the first time in her entire career. And that timing is so suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Be suspicious. Don't. I was actually going to start doing that, but I was like, I can't talk over her again.
You can. I allow it. Violet takes this opportune downtime to ask Bodhi in hushed tones what his second signet is. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. Love learning about the signets. I don't know. And he says he doesn't have one. And he's just so, like Xaden. Just kidding. He's only got the one. And I'm like, okay.
But okay, so I know we talked at the top of the episode about how Rebecca confirmed that she has to draw a line somewhere and it's with signets.
Mm-hmm.
And this line is supposed to tell us that, but if I'm not one to hold some space for the opposite and to just accept her blatant lies or blatant statements as false advertising for future plot hole or plot developments, I think that was a misdirection. No, it's not. It's not, but I want it to be.
Not the third signet, okay. But Bodhi's saying he doesn't have a second one, and also me realizing again that even those closest to him really don't know that he's Inntinnsic, or Xaden's Inntinnsic. Bodhi not having a second one then discounts that all the marked ones have second ones, right?
It would discount that theory, yeah.
And I'm not ready to buy that yet. I don't know. Yeah. I think he's not shooting straight with Violet for some reason.
Well, so sorry. No, him saying... It's not that he doesn't know that Xaden has a second signet. Him saying, I don't have another one just like Xaden, meaning that he knows about Xaden's second signet, but he got the second signet because he bonded to Sigale. He was saying, no, I don't have one in the same way that Xaden doesn't have one because we're marked ones. Bodhi knows about his second signet. Bodhi's his cousin.
Are you sure?
No. I'm just really strong in this assumption. Your face is making me second guess myself.
I think he doesn't. I don't know for sure.
Let's just tuck this in a box and remember
this
that. This
conversation sent me all over the place. But yeah, again, we cannot harp here. So the first years show up and Sloane insists on helping Violet in whatever ways they can. This was kind of a Sloane moment because at the same time, it's revealed that she won't train with her signet, which is a bummer because she's kind of like, I'm more destructive than good with it. And it's also revealed that her and Dane Atos, are eventually going to be a thing because they're making enemies to lovers' eyes.
This sent me.
I know.
I love this. I loved everything about it.
It's a pairing we didn't see, but a pairing I embrace.
It's actually a pairing that I predicted. Did you not? I sure did. I was going back and forth between if I thought she was going to end up with Sloane was going to end up with Auric or if she was going to end up with Dane, because I was thinking it might be Auric simply because I would love the idea of I'm still convinced that either Halden is going to die or something eventually and Auric will be the one to take the throne, and I love the just desserts it would be if he married a marked one and then they ruled. So that's where I was like, I think that'd be cool. And something I don't know why I picked Sloane, but I was like, I guess like she would be, they're close, they're in the same class, they're both writers. I don't know. But then I had a thought about Dane and I have zero idea why, but I was just like, who could Dane end up with?
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Something to think about. Violet gives the first year's essay homework on Asher's books, which just sucks. Like, yeah, it's needed. But like, if I were to be like, I want to help you, I am a writer with a dragon, and she's like, give me a 1-page essay on this book. Ugh, not.
I don't really want to help anymore.
Yeah. You know what? You got this.
Me thinks this won't be helpful, so I'll just let you do it.
It seems like I would just mess this up, so I'm just going to let you handle it. Arik asks how the mission to Deverelli went, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would spill the tea so fast, so hard.
I know.
To someone who knew Halden. And Violet kind of did not. In the background, everyone, though, on the quest squad is fighting about how they're going to visit all of these isles within the time given to them when, bam, Xaden is back. But his eyes, they're no longer gold-flecked. They're amber.
I know. That broke my heart so much.
Mm-hmm.
I hated this because I was like, oh my gosh, is this it? Is this the ASM? Is he here? Have we arrived? Was it just that one channeling situation? Yeah. It just sucked. Because we love his gold flecked onyx eyes they have been referenced so frequently throughout the last 2.5 books that's just who he is. Like, he is the boy with the gold flecked onyx eyes.
They were referenced so much, and yet when she was like, they're amber, I was like, what were they before?
Are you kidding me? Well, when that happened, I didn't have the oh shoot, what color were they before moment. I had the Melissa, what a freaking idiot. You should have known with how much they were referenced that they were gonna change, or like that would come up again somehow. So I had the opposite effect of like, you should have seen this coming.
No, you're so one step ahead and I'm so 3 steps behind. I was like,
what color were they before?
Weren't they amber? Yikes. Okay, Violet nuzzles into their bond when she sees him, and she thinks to herself that this level of intimacy is even better, and Xaden finishes than sex. Except she didn't send that down the bond.
Once again.
And that's not him reading her intentions. That's him reading her mind.
Yes.
She wonders if he's honing in his signet, which is a dead giveaway to me that option 2 is off the table. This isn't signet strengthening. So now it's 1, a lie, or 3, the venin thing, which is what we said in the beginning. So cool.
Well, and again, because like, if she's assuming it's one thing, it's not.
It's not
exactly. Even, it's whatever. I can't. I just need to know at this point. We just need to keep going.
I know. So coming back to reality, everyone is still fighting about the timing of the quest squad missions when Violet finally decides that they're just going to go AWOL. She's like, it does not make sense. This is stupid. The Griffins can't handle it. We don't want to do, we're done. We're going to disobey leadership and find the dragons. And time is now very much of the essence because Xaden is running out of it. Bodhi gives Violet what she asked for, 2 vials, 1 serum, 1 antidote. For what? It's clearly something for Xaden if he goes too far, but how does it work? He then tells her to take Garrick in case she doesn't use them. What does this mean? And all of a sudden, okay, do we want to address that first? Because the vials really threw me.
I'm smooth braining here and going back to the second Signet with Bodhi conversation. Because I am just now refining my highlight of that exact conversation. And me thinks that we need to bring this back up because the exact phrasing in the book is a corner of his mouth lifts into a wry smile that reminds me of his cousins. And he says, don't have one just like Xaden. Which also makes me think, like, exactly like you said, okay, but he does. Like, the way he said that.
Oh, just like Xaden, maybe he's saying, like, don't have one, just like Xaden.
Just like Xaden doesn't have one. Exactly.
He has one. Maybe it's Inntinnsic. Maybe it's something like, don't have one similar to how Xaden doesn't have one because Inntinnsic is so illegal we never even talk about it.
I took that more to be like, don't have one just like Xaden doesn't have one because most people don't know that Xaden has a second one. So it's like, yeah, I don't have one just like Xaden. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh, like he actually doesn't have one, but then also wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just like Xaden.
Exactly.
What are we saying? No, we're on different pages.
No, we're saying the same thing. He's saying, I don't have one just like Xaden because like if anyone heard, Xaden doesn't have one. But because Violet knows that he does have one, so it's like, I don't have one just like Xaden.
But Bodhi is saying he doesn't have one, but he actually doesn't have one. Then he's saying just like Xaden because we assume that Xaden doesn't have one, as the public shouldn't think that he does, right? So but even though he does. So in reality, hold on. Reality, Bodhi is saying he doesn't have one, even though Xaden has one. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying he does have one. Okay, but he's saying he doesn't.
Yes.
Because no one else knows that Xaden has a second one. So, yes.
Which brings me back to the Inntinnsic thing, because just like Xaden, because it's so illegal that for someone to be Inntinnsic that he's not even going to mention at all, like second Signet at all, that he's also perhaps an Inntinnsic of some sort.
So I mean, I don't think that. I see why you would think that, and if it turned out that he was Inntinnsic, cool. Mm-hmm. I just think he was referencing I don't have one in the same way that he doesn't have one, but because we know he has one, that means Bodhi also has one.
Dang it, Rebecca, why you gotta write it like this? Just say yes. Just yes. I have one.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Back to the Vials.
The Vials confused me because what do they do? Like, obviously one's a venom of some point, of some sort, and there's an antidote of some sort, but what are they going to debilitate him? Are they going to poison him to kill him? What's happening?
Oh, shoot. I remember. I want to say it was the cut off, the serum that they took in RSC, so it, like, cuts him off so that it would stop him. It would stop him. I can't remember.
Well, they didn't clarify what type it was.
Yeah.
In this.
That's kind of what I...
That's what you assumed?
That's kind of what I assumed. But I'm saying I can't remember what I thought when I first read that.
I guess we'll just continue on to find out. All of a sudden, though, in the ring, a fire wielder burns a little too close to a second year, and she, in reaction to this, drains the mat, taking what wasn't hers, aka... becoming venin in front of everyone. And then Carr walks right up and kills her with an alloy hilted dagger. No cure, no chance for nothing, just dead. So, yikes.
Well, I actually felt really bad for her because you know that she only did it just pure desperation. I know. And then what does that get her but a swift death? Little swipey swipe with a dagger to the throat.
Devastating.
But, I mean, I get it, but it's sad. I don't know why. I don't remember it ever describing what she looked like, but the way, the desperation in her actions reminded me of, I can't remember what district she was from, but the Fox girl in Hunger Games.
Fox face, yeah.
It gave those vibes to me.
You know, like, what it gave for me is, and I feel like I brought up Twilight quite a bit already, but Bree Tanner. Bree Tanner, is that her name?
I don't know who you're talking about.
It was like the bonus novella for Twilight.
Oh, I never read it, so I'm just gonna take your word for it. The Short
Second Life of Bree Tanner. Yeah, that's her name. Yeah, she was just very like timid and sweet, and they took her in, and then they ended up killing her. So,
yikes.
Anyways, chapter 29. Guess who joins the quest squad? Trager and Maren. Better late than never.
Yes.
Mira is also back from leave, though she is super dodgy about telling Violet where she went. And everyone is packed and ready to go towards Umbriel when Halden starts throwing a fit. And Xaden says, "Why don't you scurry into your little basket?"
I'm never going to stop loving that.
I know. He is pitching an actual fit and starting to then dictate where they're going to fly. Like, oh, we're going to fly halfway because I actually didn't enjoy the full length of this ride. And I'm like, where do you get off?
I know.
When Malvik lands. And if memory serves me correctly, which it does because I'm writing it in the outline as I speak, Malvik is Arik's dragon. And this is the first time Halden will see Arik/Prince Cam since he disappeared 8 months ago.
Well, Violet? And I might be absolutely shooting myself here, but I read this like 8 times because I'm like, who the frickety frack is Malvik? I've never heard that name before. And so I just had to trust the process and keep reading. Because if you remember on our Onyx Storm, or our recap, like things you need to know before Onyx Storm, we went over all the characters. Arik's dragon was unnamed. So this was the first that we're getting his dragon's name. I don't know if how much like that's gonna actually come up later on, but I reread this so many times because I'm like, why am I supposed to know this? I don't know this. I don't know who this is. Is Malbec a dragon or a person? I'm pretty sure it's a dragon, but what the heck? And then I just needed to keep going.
I've actually really recognized this. I think I've read ahead a little bit at this point, but I've noticed this, especially in the past chapter that I was reading, that Rebecca's writing style is so fun because she writes things like we're supposed to know it and then explains. That's a constant style of hers, is writing a reveal and then explaining what led up to that. Because I'm like, what the heck? And I'm always looking back like, what did I just miss? And then I'm having to remember, this is her style. I have to keep reading to find out what I just read. It's crazy.
Well, and that's how like 90% of these chapter headers are too.
Right.
Like almost all of them come back to play like 10 chapters after we got it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's immediately, but for the most part, it's all something that you just have to remember. Like, okay, it feels so out of pocket and so random, but like, okay, something about this was said. And then later on in the book, you're like, I think there was something said about this. And you have to scroll back. Yes, this is what was said.
And that's why a highlighter is your best friend for reading the Empyrean series.
Amen.
So Violet moves to protect, but then respects Aric's decisions to relieve them of Halden and act as the royal rep. Halden is bright red with fury as he realizes Arik has been here the whole time and is just genuinely and generally 100% cooler than him and more deserving of everything. He's got a dragon. He's a rider, like a esteemed first year. He's cool. He's so cool. Yeah. And Halden is in a basket.
He's in a basket. He's in the good graces of Violet, a place that Halden will never ever be again.
Yes.
He has everything.
Yikes. It's everything. So, however, my ice cold heart melted just a wee, not a ton. When they get ready to take off, and Halden, similar to Xaden's moment where he looks at Violet and pleads and just says Violet and asks her to, with his eyes, like, take care of Arik, and then like looks at everyone else and he's like, that goes for all of you, take care of him. And I actually melted a bit, and I'm very surprised that in reality I'm very attached to Arik at this point. I really like this character.
I actually also, I thought you were going to say you're surprised that we got that from Halden, because I was more surprised. I mean, I know that they're brothers, but like I know it was a shock and everything, but I think it really hit home for me that he's his only brother left. He lost his twin. Yeah. And while he still doesn't know the full circumstances surrounding that, he does, like, they are, at the end of the day, they're still brothers, even if they're very different. And the old adage, blood is thicker than water. Mm-hmm. I don't know how true that, I actually believe that, but there is something to be said about, like, still, even you can hate someone and still love them. Right. And I kind of hated that we got a human side of I almost said Halden. Yeah. After the little pity party and absolute hissy fit he threw with King Courtland. But I did like it. It was still, like, I always appreciate a sentimental moment in a book.
It truly is the artistry of an author when they can write a character so wicked that you just love to hate, and it's like there's really no redemption because they just suck, and they write them in such a way that makes you have a tender place in your heart for them. Mm-hmm. I just love that. It's one of my favorite things that an author can do. So
sure is a skill.
In Deverelli, Mira works out that some runes work off of the continent, and they just need to figure out which ones. So now, and that's something more important than how I just read that. I think that that's going to come back around in a big way. But now they fly to Umbriel, a 12-hour flight over water. They land exhausted, and the hot air is stifling. Violet spends some time with Mira alone, trying to make things a little less awkward between them because the tensions are there. And she notices Mira has a new bracelet that makes her strangely nostalgic. Violet suggests that Indarna's kind couldn't have settled here because they'd be separated from magic, but Mira wonders if they were able to live without it. Interesting.
Very interesting.
I'm kind of leaning more towards no, because Violet, for whatever reason, has the bond on these islands, and I think that it's due to Indarna's something about that reaching.
100%. At this point, I think still, like I said in last episode, I don't know how it would be possible, but I still think, because Rebecca said that her second signet manifested in Iron Flame.
Yeah.
But I still think
don't know it.
Whatever signet Andarna gifted or she is getting from Andarna, I think that has a big part of it.
Mira reveals that she visited their grandmother, like we just said, Asher's mother, on leave, but then kept all of their interactions and conversations secret, which I really thought was intentionally rude. And I actually took personal offense. Like, I'm not even kidding. It felt like my own friend just did that to me, and I felt mad. I took that
personally.
It did. It felt like Dad liked you better, so I found someone who tells me things that you don't get to know. But I also wonder if this grandma, Niara, had answers for Mira on what her purpose in this war is. Because kind of how Narelle said, like, oh, I wonder what your mother was raising you for, or, like, what your purpose is here. I wonder if she went to go find more answers about that and can't tell Violet for whatever reason, similar to how Violet can't really tell Mira everything at the exact moments that she wants to, you know?
True, except my only counter to that is if her mom was the one raising her for whatever mission and whatever part she had to play, why would she visit her dad's mom for that?
Can't tell you. Have no idea. And Mira wouldn't tell you either, so we don't know.
Mira wouldn't let you know.
When they wake up, there is a man telling them that it was a mistake to come, but Xaden easily takes a blade to his throat. Does not slice. Chapter 30. Last chapter, everyone. Xaden notes that the soldiers in front of them are all so similar. Same height, same build, same hair. It's very weird to me.
I know, and I almost remember, maybe I'm making this up, but I almost remember the comment being made, too, about, like, there were men and women in this, and still everyone was, like, the same. And it took me a second to be like, interesting. Like, I wonder why that is.
Yeah. And I don't even think they really get into that. Maybe they do in future chapters, but not this one.
Potentially.
They request an audience with the queen, and the soldiers simply deny it. Tairn growls, and one of the soldiers pees himself. And this was, I thought, a funny thing to add, but then immediately what it alluded to, I was like, oh, it makes absolute sense. So him peeing himself makes it clear that this isle has never seen dragons before. Yeah. And to me, as soon as I would have seen the pee and made that conclusion in my head, I would have been like, all right, never mind then, bye. But they need every possible resource they can for this war, so they stayed to have an audience with the queen. Whatever. And Darna is sad, and Violet has to remind her that she's not shielded from the dragon's feelings here because of the open bond with no other magic. So this was an interesting revelation to me. It could be good or bad. I feel like the feelings could heighten in a good way and really push someone past their breaking point in a bad way.
In a bad way. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I don't think I thought too much of it when it was said, but I think I should have. Yeah. Because I mean, I agree. I definitely I read it and I took note of it, but I was like, and then kept going. Yeah. I didn't really think too much of it.
I don't know. Like, I was thinking, like, if they were in battle or something, you know how Violet is not keen to kill on sight. Yeah. If Andarna was so angry that she was like, kill, could that push Violet's emotions past the point where she does something that she would later regret? But I don't know.
I think absolutely it could, because we've already learned that, when Tairn, that's their couple name. When Tairn and Sigale get a little frisky, busy, it can cause Violet to also feel the same and just like uncontrollable sense of want. And so, that would stand to reason that the exact same thing would happen with anger and kill and murder, from her other dragon.
Xaden reminds the soldiers that per their customs, defeating their best in combat would earn them an entrance to court. They say they'll only bring half their group to the city, Eistel, where they'll fight. Violet chooses Xaden, Eric, Kat, Dane, and herself, and Mira is pretty unbothered by this. She was like, yeah, makes sense. I don't know personally if I'd be unbothered, especially with how things are lying, but Mira is not. Again, we see the bolts.
Maybe she's not unbothered because she's got secret plans.
Maybe she's got secret plans. We see the bolts aimed at oncoming dragons, and Violet says she doesn't like how close Tairn is to them, to which he responds, I don't like your selection in mates, yet here we are. This hit me in not a haha way. Did you think about this at all?
I absolutely did. I highlighted this.
Did you?
But I highlighted it, and then I thought about it, and because on one hand, I'm like, Tairn, you silly, silly boy. There are no mates around humans in this book. So my first thought is, oh crap, are mates gonna be a thing now? Like, is that something? But then I also like just took a step back and recognized that Tairn frequently just uses his own lingo, and he does have a mate. So I think it could just be, but who knows? This could be misdirection.
And he says your selection in mates, and typically if it's a mate situation, it's fated. So I would say this is more just like,
we don't know much. I don't think we know too much about dragon mating yet. All we know is that mates, like dragons can have mates, but we don't necessarily know.
I don't think we need to, though, just because if he's saying it's your selection, then it's like, this is just the person you chose. It'd be the same as if we said, oh, this is my mate, my husband.
Gotcha. I'm tracking. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm going to start calling Zeke my mate. Ew, I hate it.
Well, so I felt different about it, though, because it felt very aggressive for her to be like, hey, I'm worried about your welfare. And he's like, well, I don't like the person you're with. Like, that's crazy. And it's more than just, hey, I don't like that he sucked the ground magic. But it's like, I don't like him. And that is so aggressive for Tairn to Xaden.
No, it's not. That is so on brand for Tairn. He's so extreme, always. Are you kidding?
It just, I don't know. I felt so weird about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
I also highlighted it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there isn't something to be said for the comment, but it's not striking me because of what you're saying.
Maybe I feel like a daughter that's not getting her father's approval with my boyfriend.
Exactly what it sounds
because
like.
I'm mad because it's like, what has Xaden done outside of the small act of become venin, but also for Violet's general like health and safety? What has he done that would be so deserving of him to be like, I don't like him? He's your mate's chosen rider, which means that she saw him worthy. And yeah, he can maybe change his mind now that he has taken from the ground. But he's only ever given up himself for Violet and chosen Violet over everything else. So I don't know why he wouldn't like him.
Well, it's not that. It's that he doesn't. It's his hatred of venin. Yeah. They are his enemy. And it's that, because this whole time, I mean, everyone keeps saying this, not just Tairn.
He calls him the Dark One.
Well, but no, everyone keeps saying that he's, like, it's not, we know that Xaden would never hurt you, but he's venin. And, like, he's not going to be able to control yourself. You are going to get hurt. We don't think that you're safe. I think it's more of an overprotective dad
with
type situation. Yeah. It has nothing to do with how Xaden has.
Am I pulling up? But Daddy, I love him.
Yes, you are pulling up. But Daddy, I love him.
I'm so
mad. It has nothing to do with his past actions and everything to do with what Tairn assumes he's going to do now that he's
so true. It makes all the sense. Okay, I'm with you. I agree. You've swayed me.
Thank you.
Swayed me. I'm leather. And Mira, so Mira said something about Tairn and Sigale being distant lately, and I'm curious what's going on behind the scenes here. What are your thoughts?
The only thing that makes sense to me is pretty much exactly what we just talked about. And you even said it. Sigale chose Xaden. Like, she chose him, and I think it's a combination of Tairn being pissed that not only is Xaden, whom his writers chosen quote unquote mate, venin, but it's also his mate's chosen rider is a venin, and he has a severe distrust and hatred towards venin. And I think Sigale is struggling with that same feeling, but then also this sense of loyalty and determination to bond to Xaden himself, not venin Xaden, to Xaden. And I would imagine neither of them are particularly compromising, and so I think that's just, there's a lot of tension there. That's where I'm leaning, but I'm also curious if this is maybe a subtle nod as to something that we'll learn later. What that
Could
is,
be.
I don't know. But I think in this moment that it has more to do with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so here we are, last bits. They make it to the city, and everyone, especially the guards, are on edge. The captain leads them to the station where the challenge will be, and Violet catches that they don't want them any closer to their primary temple. Why? What's in there?
Interesting.
I'm nosy.
I'm
on the guards' chest plates is the emblem of Dunne. Dunne? What are we saying?
I say Dunne. Well,
it's spelled like...
It's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny that you bring this up. I have such a hard time with it because I know that the deity is Dunne. That is the name.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is my stepfather's last name. He's Irish and he pronounces it Dunne. But every audiobook narration ever says Dunne. And so Dunne? I don't...
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. And also Dune, like the movie, is Dunne. So...
Well, yeah,
one would assume... Well, that's what I'm saying. One would assume that just adding an N isn't going to change the entire way the word is said. It would just still be Dunne.
One would assume that was what would happen. It's too deep into this. On the guards' chest plates is the emblem of Dunne, a claw and swords similar to theirs, suggesting a common origin. Then they lay eyes on the temple. It's huge. It has pillars. It has 6 pillars, and they're marked with sword, shield, fire, water, claw, and book. There's a sculpted tribute to the goddess, and blue-robed attendants rise on the steps. All of them, every single one of them, have silver hair.
This
and that's
absolutely
where we
sent
end.
Me.
I know.
Absolutely sent me. I was like, I reread this so many times because I was like,
I know.
I am clearly having a fever dream. This is not actually what she wrote. We could not possibly be getting an answer as to why her hair is silver when everyone has assumed it was from the sickness when Lilith was pregnant. We could not possibly be getting more insight.
Immediately, I was like,
we are.
Okay, immediate theories. Have no idea what's happening. I'm thinking it's genetic. I'm thinking her parents aren't really her parents, or that's exactly one of the parents or one of her parents and the other one isn't.
Yep.
I'm thinking Theophanie is coming from this tribe of people. I'm thinking I'm thinking it's hereditary. That's where I'm going with this.
100%. That's where I was. Mm-hmm. That's where I was at too. And I'm like, oh crap, are we going to learn that? I mean, everyone knew Lilith was pregnant, so I'm like, are we going to learn that Asher isn't actually her father? Like, because I mean, in theory, if one of them wasn't, it would have had to have been him because people saw that her pregnant and saw her after birth. Like, it's always been like that, unless she was a switched at birth situation. But that would cause more questions than answers, I think.
All right, and hopefully those will be answered within the next however many chapters until the book is over.
Amen.
But not today. And that's all we have for you guys. Thanks so much for being here with us, and we will catch you next week. We are doing chapters 31 through 36, so read those. We won't spoil past that, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.